The train with 3 cars and a single shining kettle instead of a locomotive rolled into the city of Caramel at dusk. Steam from the kettle smelled of vanilla and orange zest, and on the platform stood sellers of star-shaped lollipops, boys with flutes, and lamplighters who sprinkled crystal sugar into the lamps so their light would burn steadier. A wiry young man with curly hair and a scuffed suitcase hopped down. His name was Lev. Inside the suitcase were no clothes, no coins, only sheets of paper covered in neat small handwriting. Cinnamon whistles that sing, sugar clocks that slow worry, chocolate rain for 2, toffee orb that mends conversations. Lev believed sweets could fix hearts as surely as a watchmaker's tools. For a start, I need a kitchen, he told himself and scanned the signs around him. Starch Guild, Syrup Warehouses No. 3, Office of the Sugar Tithe. The city of Caramel was famous for confections but had long belonged to accountants and taste inspectors. The Starch Guild controlled every market, sold identical, standard sweets, and collected a sugar tithe on every spoon of syrup. Anyone who tried to invent something of their own quickly learned the invisible rules. No singing at work, no mixing unauthorized aromas, no free samples for children. Lev, though, lived by one promise, given long ago, when he was small and his laughing mother placed on his tongue a warm caramel shower. When you grow up, make a candy that makes even the sternest person remember their first hug. He wandered the city and came upon the yard of an old laundry. Above the door swung a sign, "Laundry and Dreams, Affordable." The owner, Mrs. Horpina, had hair like steam and eyes that looked straight through you with kindness. "Looking for a corner by a stove?" she asked, eyeing the suitcase. "A corner and a little quiet. And, well, a bucket of water." "Quiet I can't promise. My machines purr like drums when they dance," she winked. "But water I can give. Take the stove out back. Rent is 1 candy for each of the washing drums. They love sweets too." So Lev moved into the laundry, amid steam, soap foam, and laughter. At first light he cooked morning bells, small caramels that jingled like bronze bells as they melted. The first customers brought children, sneaking in barefoot. Leading them was a girl named Lotta, eyes the color of evening lilac, hair curling like cotton candy. "They say you make strange things," she said without hiding her smile. "Down at the market they trained us out of strange. I miss it." Lev gave her a toffee orb that mends conversations. She touched it to her tongue and suddenly, like a ribbon, an invisible line stretched between them. It wouldn't let words fall to the ground unfinished. The girl laughed. From that day people gathered at the laundry yard every morning. Tailors, carters, teachers, even lamplighters. They took boxes of courage, meringues that cracked like a first step onto ice, raspberries that return your voice, sugar clocks for a slow evening. Each evening someone hummed outside. Melodies clung to the bricks and rose on the steam. One day 3 men in suits the color of wet cardboard came into the yard. They didn't eat sweets. They poked cakes with sticks and wrote in thick notebooks. "By authority of the Starch Guild," said the middle one, "we warn you. Production without aroma approval and full tithe payment is forbidden. Singing during boiling violates discipline. Free tastings are incitement." "What if this isn't production, but letters?" Lev answered softly, "and I'm just sending them to people." "Letters are taxable too," the tallest one creaked. They left a tin plaque. "Notice, inspection." With the worry they also left resolve. "Don't stop," Lotta said. "Far beyond the sweet docks there's an underground river of cocoa. Everyone whispers about it. They say whoever finds the source can cook flavor like a song. But only a map drawn not with ink, but with aroma, can lead there." Lev laid out a stiff sheet of paper. From jars rose cardamom, ginger, cocoa, orange blossom. He stirred, hummed, and a thin line of scent, barely visible, laid itself on the paper. Thus the map of aromas was born. At night, when the laundry slept, he and Lotta followed the map. Lemon scent led through alleys, left sweet traces on door handles and chimneys. They passed the market where guild wardens fixed scales, slipped over the fence of syrup warehouses number 3, where dark syrup sloshed in barrels, and reached a hatch smelling of milk and rain. "Here," Lotta whispered. Down they went. Brick walls, arched ceilings holding a hum. The underground river wasn't water but warm cocoa, gently steaming. Lev set a pot, scooped, added a pinch of cinnamon, a sliver of forest honey, and a drop of sea, for bravery. "Taste," he offered. Lotta sipped, light filled her eyes. I suddenly remembered, her voice turned soft. "In childhood my mother tucked me in under a blanket that smelled like baked apple. I thought I'd forgotten." "That's the song Taste," Lev said. "It brings back what went far, but never left." They returned at dawn. The city slept, but the air seemed softer. Lev knew a fight was coming. But now he had not just a map, he had a river. Next day he hung a new sign, Workshop of Song Tastes. Entry into memory, voluntary. People queued. Some cried, some laughed, some held their cups to their chest and were silent for a long time. By evening the wet cardboard suits reappeared, this time with another man. Black coat, no crumbs on the sleeve, eyes of a bookkeeper and voice like a conductor's baton. "I am the warden of counters," he said evenly. "There's too much song in your syrup. It skews the metrics. That is forbidden." Lev didn't want to fight, he wanted to spread a tablecloth with large letters "Welcome." But some hearts need feeding before they can read. "Taste," Lev offered a cup. "I call it Sunday morning rain." The warden lifted it with 2 fingers, sipped, his fingers trembled. Some far shore flashed in his gaze. He recovered at once. "Forbidden," he repeated, returning the cup. "Sunday rains are not in the schedule." He signed a paper and tied a curled red ribbon across the door. "Sealed." The queue gasped. Mrs. Horpina came out in suds, arms crossed. Lotta stepped forward. "Then we'll sing louder," she said. "They haven't taxed singing yet." And they sang. Quiet at first, then louder. The laundry thrummed like a ship before sailing. Lev looked at the red ribbon and understood. This ribbon must be untied without hands. He needed a miracle, not the falling from the sky kind, the kind simmered slowly from cocoa, memory, and courage. The seal didn't scare off the willing, they came at night through the backyard. Mrs. Horpina taught the washers to purr to mask scents, and steam wrapped the yard in a milky curtain. Lev cooked night notes. Truffles that glowed in the dark when brought close to a heart. Gingerbread compasses that pointed not north but home. Fizzy sighs that taught steady breathing after a hard day. Lotta brought friends, NYT, a boy who tied ropes that only laughter could untie, and Orisia, a girl who read tracks on cobblestones like notes. By dark syrup stains she could tell which warehouse they came from and what was being boiled. "If the guild is shutting doors, it means it's afraid," Orisia said. "Which means ahead there must be doors that open." They formed the Union of the Unseen. Not thieves but workers and dreamers tired of the taste of standard. Each had an instrument. NYT his ropes, Orisia a lantern that lit nothing except a lie. Lotta a voice that returned people their own timbre. Lev a pot that remembered every song he had sung over it. Their first action was a concert of pots. At night, while the guild reconciled spreadsheets, the laundry became a stage. Lev set pots of different sizes and dropped a sugar cube with a letter into each. When the water boiled, striped shadows ran along the walls, sugar melted, and the letters hummed in whispers. Together they formed a song the city had forgotten, Welcome. Steam floated over roofs, slipped through windows where someone couldn't sleep, where someone couldn't stop crying, where someone wrote a letter and didn't know whom to address. Next morning there were more smiles at the market. Also, more wardens. "They'll bring scent counters," warned Orisia. "They need numbers to kill a song." "We'll give them numbers," Mrs. Horpina said. "Let them count how many times someone said, 'Thank you,' after one of your cups." That day the guild hosted a public tasting of Standard Joy Bars No. 7. Tables on the square, banners. Predictability is the mother of peace. Identical portions for all. Lev, with a towel over his head like a traveling musician, walked among the tables and quietly left a tiny caramel seed on each plate. Seeds of wonder. They had no taste until a person thought, what if? Then the standard slabs suddenly tasted too uniform. What if there's room for something else? Orija whispered to the children. Taste and think. By next day the market hummed with rumors. Did you get chamomile childhood yesterday? I had an apple in a coat of cinnamon. Mine, I can't name it, but I wanted to hug my neighbor. The guild fumed. The warden of counters issued an order. Remove cooking appliances from the laundry yard, confiscate pots, and ban singing within 3 streets. When they arrived, the laundry sang. Machines turned in rhythm. Windows chimed like triangles. Smoke spelled out. Taste isn't counted, it's remembered. Lev didn't wait for a blow. He had a plan. The union split. Knight's rope bridge of umbrellas and ironing boards led across the roof. Orija distracted wardens by turning on her lantern. It revealed, for official use only, syrup stains on their shoes. Lada sang till the wardens' heads nodded involuntarily. Illegal, of course. Lev carried the main pot into the square. People gathered, not for a brawl but as witnesses. Today I'll cook a cup of honesty, he said. It shows everyone who they were before they learned to hide. He tossed into cocoa a pinch of salt, for the courage of truth. Shavings of juniper, for straight talk. A drop of lemon peel syrup, so words won't stick, and, finally, a crumb of caramel his mother once gave him, for a rainy day. Steam rose. Wind brought the scent of fields after rain. Lev offered the warden the cup. He took it with 2 fingers again, but set it on the curb without drinking. Don't give in, he told his men. His syrup manipulates. Then the unforeseen happened. A little boy, his pant leg patched with knight's thread, snatched the cup and took a sip. He looked up, and burst into laughter that rippled over the square. Dad, he shouted, I remember how you carried me on your shoulders and your coat smelled like hay. A stern carter choked up. The warden froze. A second wave spread. Orija sipped and said, I dreamed of conducting washing machine choirs. Why do I pretend I don't? Mrs. Horpina slurped and declared, my washers are a chorus and I'm taking them to the square. People laughed, cried, hugged. The warden stood amid the sea of feeling and watched the red seal ribbon slide from the laundry door, softened by steam. Disperse. Seize. Forbid, he barked. Too late. Once rooted, a song taste climbs a city like a rosevine. No decree can prune it. That night Lev and friends went back to the underground river to take enough cocoa for the whole quarter. In the tunnel masked people blocked them, not guild men. Candle makers, they were called. They made smokeless wax candles and lived apart. Their leader, a tall woman with a scar, introduced herself as Ruda. We've watched you, she said. The guild monopolized the fire of flavor. We care about a light that cannot be sold. If you want to cook songs, we'll give you candles and away. Why help us? NYT blurted. Because every city deserves a night where stars can be seen. Now we have only numbers, Ruda replied. They gave them lanterns that showed wardens no path, and a map of hidden passages under the city. Where the guild compiled tables, others stitched a network of friendship. Weeks followed like rehearsal for a grand concert. Evenings, song tastes simmered in cellars. At night, candle makers carried them through narrow shafts to courtyards. At dawn, laundries hummed like organs. The guild countered with raids, inspections, more sealed signs. The signs kept falling. Steam stuck them not to doors but to the warden's fears. Meanwhile the warden readied a final strike. In the high syrup hall he gathered all registrars and declared, from now on any confection that triggers uncontrolled emotions is forbidden. Allowed are only those measured in standard units of joy. And quietly, almost to himself, we're not fighting happiness. We're organizing it. Posters announced the new rules under the roll of drums. That evening the laundry's door clanged. Red ribbon became a chain. Friends, Lev said, enough rehearsals. It's time for the premiere. The premiere was called the Festival of Returns. Not a fair, not a protest. A celebration where everyone could fetch back something of their own. A voice, a laugh, a recipe, the courage to say no or yes. Candle makers placed thousands of lanterns whose light chased away only fatigue. Laundries shifted closer to hum in unison. Children drew chalk arrows on the stones leading to cellars where song taste simmered. What if they come with chains? Someone asked. Then we'll give them meringues of a calm heart, said Mrs. Horpina. Let's see if hands can tighten chains when warmed. Lev prepared the main score, the great census of hearts. Each pot carried a line: cocoa for bass, milk for alto, honey for tenor, zest for soprano. The whole city had to sing at once. For this Lotta wrote a simple four-note melody anyone could hum, from washer to chimney sweep. The festival began quietly. A long table stood on the square without money or scales. Cups, spoons, plates of wing-shaped cookies. Someone blew a spoon, flute. Someone tapped a cup, baritone. The warm clatter gelled into harmony. 1, said Lotta. 2, echoed Mrs. Horpina. 3, added Orisia. 4, Lev whispered and lifted the lid of the main pot. Warmth rushed out like a blanket pulled over shoulders on a cloudy veranda. An echo of a far shore. A taste with no name at all. Only the feeling, I am here, I am seen. The city sang. And then, they came. The warden stepped into the square. Behind him dozens in cardboard suits and 100 more in white lab coats, registrars of taste, carried joy randomizers, pleasure calibrators, tear dosimeters. Lev smiled. They truly meant to measure a choir. I'm not interrupting your holiday, the warden said evenly. I'm here to legalize it. From now on every song taste must be registered, described, and assigned to a time slot. Outside the schedule. Forbidden. But a song doesn't ask a clock when to return, Lotta said gently. It comes when you're ripe for it. Then all the more it should be postponed to the agreed term, he replied. He raised his hand. Registrars unfolded forms. Something odd happened. Ink refused to write. It thickened like syrup and glued numbers into words. Instead of 12.5 units of joy, hug dad, appeared. Instead of 3.1 units of sorrow, cried without shame. What is this sabotage? The warden's voice turned metallic. It's not sabotage, Lev set a cup on the edge of a form. It's an honest ledger. The warden's certainty had always rested on a belief that the world must fit rows in a table. Now the table sang. Enough, he snapped and threw a lever. Steel syrup towers around the square lurched. From their crowns gray, standard, syrup gushed, meant to flood the square, wash away song like rain washes chalk. To the underground river, Ruta shouted. It flows full right under the square. NYT pulled ropes, manholes flipped open. People began to descend, slowly, there were elders and children among them. Lev looked at the towers and knew what to do. Don't run, he said. Resonate. He ran to the syrup fountain and tossed in a handful of seeds of wonder. Then a pinch of salt, for truth, a crumb of Sunday morning rain, and dipped his wooden paddle, the kind mothers used to skim milkskin. The paddle remembered his mother's laugh. Sing, he asked softly. The square sang. The syrup changed. Gray to clear, sticky to obedient. Instead of drowning it flowed in narrow streams, down manholes to the underground river. Cocoa met it like the sea meets a river. Embraced it and made it part of itself. Steam rose, warm, transparent, cinnamon. The warden stared. His system had failed. Numbers dissolved. People didn't scatter, syrup became song. He stepped so close Lev could see the fine vein at his temple. You're breaking order, he whispered. I'm mending it, Lev said. With another glue. And your glue is memory, said Lev, the kind that makes us not bricks. The warden took from his pocket a tiny silver spoon engraved with an initial, R. He lowered it into a cup Lev hadn't served yet and took the first true sip of his life. His eyes softened for a heartbeat. Perhaps he slid into a memory smelling of fresh bread and pencil shavings. Perhaps he saw himself small, hiding behind a curtain while his mother sang in the kitchen. Perhaps something else. It lasted one breath. He set the cup down and closed his face with firmness. "Tomorrow morning you will appear in the high syrup hall," he said. "Refuse, and we shut down the whole quarter, laundries included." "Tomorrow it is," Lev nodded. "I'll bring my pot. It has something to say." The high syrup hall looked like a temple to numbers. High windows hung with graphs, a checkered floor, walls lined with scales. On the central table stood a polished cauldron engraved Standard 1A. The whole guild assembled. Candle makers lined the walls. The union of the unseen filled the back rows. Mrs. Horpina brought a laundry bell, just in case. Lada held Lev's fingers. "Court in session," the registrar announced, opening a thick book. Case number 77. Excess empathy and unauthorized stirring of memory. Prosecution. Starch Guild. Defense. Citizen Lev and the pot. "The pot has a name," Orija ventured. "Listener." "Noted," the registrar said, as if used to stranger things. The warden argued first. About stability, predictability, about emotions as a storm from which a city must be sheltered. That sweets are fuel, not music. That singing is for holidays on schedule. That memories are private, not to be poured into cups. If everyone brings song to market, he concluded, we'll have chaos. In chaos, trouble is born. Lev sat listener on the table beside Standard 1A. He didn't speak long. "Everyone has a song they once lost," he said quietly. "I don't sell it. I only hand them a key to a door." "A door?" The registrar frowned. "To what specific object?" "To themselves," Lev said. "Specify." "The protocol can't say to themselves." "Right. To a room where they aren't ashamed." A few laughed, others sighed. The registrar lifted his brows but wrote it down. "No more metaphors," the warden cut in. "A test. Let this pot produce a predictable result for 3 categories. One who lost, one who fears, one who doesn't believe." "All right," Lev nodded. "Listener, you heard?" The pot answered with a clear, tiny ring. Lev lit the fire, candle makers gave light, poured cocoa from the underground river, sprinkled salt and honey and zest. "First cup, for one who lost." An elderly woman with gray eyes stepped forward, sipped, straightened. "I thought I'd forgotten my sister's voice," she whispered. "But it's here. It's laughing." "Classified as nostalgia," the warden muttered. "Proceed." "Second cup, for one who fears." A young man in a work apron drank and looked at his hands. "I'm going to ask forgiveness," he said. "I didn't know how before." Third cup, for one who doesn't believe. No one moved. Lev placed the cup before the warden. "Why me?" the warden asked softly. "Who else believes in numbers strongly enough to have the right not to believe in anything else?" Lev replied gently. Silence. The warden took the cup, this time not with 2 fingers but like something of his own, sipped. No fireworks. Only a long exhale, like a worker sitting after a shift. He laid the engraved spoon, R, beside the cup and closed his eyes for a moment. In protocol this is called, the registrar hesitated, reduced resistance. "People call it," allowed himself, Lada offered. The warden opened his eyes, wet, yet steady. Not the hardness of a brick anymore, rather the resolve of a violinist who has recognized another melody and is now searching for harmony. "Ruling," he said. "From today the city of Caramel will have a dual system. Standards, for those who need railings, and open doors, for those ready to sing. The guild no longer holds a monopoly. Song tastes may be cooked, if they do not coerce. Tithe is cancelled for," he glanced at Lev, "for cups in which people return." The hall erupted. Some shouted, "Betrayal," others, "At last." The registrar flipped his book helplessly. No such section existed. Mrs. Horpina struck the laundry bell. It boomed ceremoniously. After the trial the city began to change. Workshops filled the streets. Some molded, cookies of decision. Others, brittle of bravery. Others, lollipops of quiet for people who don't like words. Candle makers took their lanterns from intersections. They had new work, teaching children smokeless candles. The Union of the Unseen stopped being unseen and opened a craft school where Lesson 1 was cooperate. Lesson 2, be curious. Lesson 3, hold the spoon when your hands tremble. Lev, Lada, and Mrs. Horpina opened the House of Open Doors. Not a shop, an orchestra. In a large room stood pots, each with a name. Listener, brave heart, calmer, reminder. On the wall hung the map of aromas, now veined with new lines. Lavender from the bookseller's alley, almond from the doll-maker's studio, peppermint from the hospital garden. People came to recover what they'd lost. One morning he appeared, the warden without his cardboard suit. Plain cloak, spoon with the letter R in his pocket. I've left the guild, he said. They live in bricks, and he sighed, I've learned to listen. And the R? Lada nodded at the spoon. Roman, he remembered. My name is Roman. Come in, Roman, Mrs. Horpina smiled. We need someone who can hold two things steady, a spoon and silence. He came in. From that day the House of Open Doors had a new master, not a cook, a listener. Sometimes that's all a taste needs to ripen. Months passed. The underground river flowed steadier. They say it loves when songs are sung above it. The map of aromas grew like a vine. On squares people held censuses of hearts just because, no courts, no permits. Each time someone sipped and said, I remember, someone else answered, me too. One evening Lev climbed to the roof. The city shone, not with electricity or syrup but with laughter reflecting in panes. Lada brought a blanket smelling of apples and cinnamon and sat beside him. What do you still want? She asked. For this to exist without me, he said honestly. For the song not to depend on one cook. Then open a school, Lada said simply. Teach hearing, not recipes. So the school of song tastes opened. Children got not textbooks but spoons and silence. They didn't learn to cook Sunday morning rain. They learned to find their own. Lesson 1. Remember. Lesson 2. Breathe. Lesson 3. Share. When graduates stepped into the city with their pots, the city of caramel grew a shade warmer. On graduation night Lev took his old suitcase. It still held pages of small letters and many blanks. Where are you going? Mrs. Horpina adjusted her apron. The map points onward, Lev said. There are cities where pots don't sing yet. I want to plant seeds of wonder. Lada was quiet for a heartbeat, then smiled. I'll write a melody for the road. Roman nodded. I'll do the accounting, without numbers. Orisha unfolded a new lantern that glowed with the warmth of those who see you off. NYT tied a knot on the suitcase, a knot that loosens with laughter. Lev looked at the city. Laundry organs, smokeless lanterns, the House of Open Doors where the old red seal ribbon had faded into a bookmark inside a thick recipe book to which anyone could add a line. You know, he told Lada, my mother once asked me to make a candy that would make the sternest person remember their first hug. I don't think I made a candy. I made a door, and people opened it themselves, Lada replied. They hugged. Machines purred below. Children laughed somewhere. Deep down the cocoa sang bass. Steam drifted over rooftops carrying apples, cinnamon, and something with no name, only, I am here, I am seen. The suitcase felt lighter, because the most important thing was no longer inside it but in a city that had learned to sing. At the station the same train with the shining kettle waited. The conductor in a striped waistcoat winked. Where are we cooking today? To a place where people still divide taste from song, Lev said. The train pulled away. The city of caramel grew smaller but never dim. It glowed like a candle on a windowsill, so that whoever returns can find their way home.